Welcome to Sports and Stogies. Now, introducing your hosts, Cameron Winkowitz and Austin Hayes.
Pull up a chair, pour up a drink, and light that cigar. It's time for our special interview with Greg Burke, owner of Tip Top. Cam.
Welcome back, everybody. You know the drill. Sit back and listen to the interesting stories that Greg has to tell us. Greg, why don't you introduce yourself and how new you are to the industry, or pimp out your brand a little bit.
Yeah, tell us firstly where we can find the shop and follow you on social medias.
Absolutely. So you can find us in Springfield, Ohio, next to Super Walmart on 3471 East National Road. We're basically where the restaurants are with Hothead and Penn Station. As far as, what was the other question you'd asked me? I apologize.
Social media.
Oh, social media. So we do have Facebook, Tip Top Smoke, Instagram as well as Tip Top Smoke, Twitter. We also have that as Tip Top Smoke. If you go to our website for tiptopsmoke.com, we have the links for all of our social media platforms as well.
Yeah, it's a great shop. It's nice to have something actually in Springfield because there's really nothing here in town. You guys carry a great selection of smaller boutique brands and all the heavy hitters too.
Thank you.
And you've brought in some pretty wonderful gifts for us here today. Start off with what you're smoking on yourself right now.
So I'm having St. Francis. This is a collaboration between All Saints and United. It's a St. Patrick's cigar. It's a little short firecracker. Right now, this is the first time I'm having it. They didn't even have them to try at TPE when I was there in February, so this is first for me. So far, I'm enjoying it.
Cam?
I'm also smoking the same thing, and again, my first time. Didn't look up any notes or anything. We're just winging it, and yeah, so far very enjoyable.
Then I've got a Charter Oaks, which is by Foundation, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Greg knows I'm a big Foundation fan and came in prepared.
Absolutely. The Foundations are really good. If you like the Tabernacles and you haven't tried a Charter Oak, I highly recommend to try it. It's a little bit less on the price, so you're going to save some money. Get a couple more cigars for the price of a Tabernacle.
Yeah, flavor-wise, it's very reminiscent of the Tabernacle.
Yeah.
It's a pretty spot-on match.
It's
like
got
you said,
that broadleaf.
substantial, less price, too.
Absolutely. It's going to probably save you about $4 to $5 on a cigar.
So when did you first get into cigars as a smoker before even the business part came in?
So before the business part came in, it was in 2016. I was actually in Las Vegas for a convention for vaporizers, for e-cigarettes. That was my business. I actually have been in the tobacco business, manufacturing e-liquids since about 2011 now, so over a decade. And I quit manufacturing e-liquid in 2018. However, while I was in Vegas in 2016 for the convention for vapes, one of our friends had asked us, hey, can we go to a cigar lounge? I want to take you guys over to Davidoff. And so I'm like, I've never been. And he goes, it's great. Even if you don't want a cigar, they got drinks. There's an outside sitting area. Let's go check it out. And so we had a group of about 4 people. We were able to have whatever drinks we wanted. Servers came to the table. The atmosphere was great. There's a lot of people communicating, talking beside us about cigars and what they like about Davidoff and things like that. At the time, I was smoking a CAO. That was my first cigar, a Moon Trends.
Not a bad start, though.
Not bad. I did have a Davidoff, and so I got lucky, though, that one of the experiences I had in there was that a guy named Eddie Sahakian was there for the convention.
No kidding.
Correct.
Big fan of his.
Right, and so he was sitting there and having just basically a conversation with his friends. And he was just very humble, very polite, so nice. And I know I basically interrupted him just to say, what are you smoking? And that's why I ended up getting a Davidoff. But the whole experience got me into cigars, just that one lounge visit.
Yeah, you dove in head first, straight to Davidoff in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a start.
It was a great start. It made me want to have a lounge just like it. And so I kind of had another trip again for the same thing, and I didn't have such a nice experience. But I got to go to the Monte Cristo Lounge, which is in Caesar's Palace. And that became my favorite go-to lounge. The reason why is they have the best selection, not necessarily the best prices, but it's Vegas. Everything you're going to pay way over the top.
Some markup, of course. Yeah.
Right. And so that lounge experience was like, I got to have a lounge. Can I get started with cigars? And over 2 years, it took us to kind of debate whether we could actually do it. So 2 years ago, we started Tip Top Smoke. And so from there, we started with 2 humidors. We now have 20 humidors.
And counting.
Correct. Yeah, it's growing consistently. We've got an industrial humidifier we're trying to put in so that we can put more cigars out on the shelves. We have about 100 cigars that aren't even on display yet.
Now, have you noticed any transfer from people coming in looking for vape and then moving over to the cigar part? It's a good little intro to get people kind of acclimated to the cigar community.
Actually, the biggest thing we noticed right away was the wives usually vape and the husband smokes cigars.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's vice versa. So that was the one thing we picked up on right away. But it was probably within about 6 months we started getting demand. We only had 3 brands when we started. We wasn't sure of the market in town, like how many people that smoked cigars. We knew a few people did, but not how many. And so we brought in Drew Estates, Rocky Patel, and I think it was Arturo Fuente. Oh, we had 4, Macanundo. And we just kept taking requests. Is there something that we're missing? What would you like to see? And so we started bringing in more and more based on what customer preference was. Now we've cut that part off because we started going after what we want and what we know is really good product that we found, especially at the conventions, because now I've been to PCA twice in a row, TPE 3 years in a row for cigars.
Yeah, you've got all my favorite brands, and I found a lot of new brands through your guys' shop, and you carry things that sometimes I really can't find anywhere else. So, like, again, incredible selection overall, and also your house blends are fantastic as well. A nice intro smoke, pretty cheap, and very good quality. I'm a big fan of those. And you just have the brand new Maduro ones in, correct?
Correct. We do have the Maduros. So we started with just the Robustos with Connecticut's, and it has like a graham cracker taste is what that's kind of the number one note everyone picks up on. And then we got in some of the Sun-Growns and Maduros and Robusto as well. We also now carry the Maduros and Toros and Gordos. And it's actually become one of our most popular selling cigars, just price point alone, and it's a great quality smoke.
Yeah, finding a good quality cigar for that price is, and I've kind of noticed that trend among house blends in general, but your guys' especially. A lot of the times they're not their highest dollar smoke, but the flavor profile and the build quality and the draw, and it's almost perfect every time.
Absolutely, it's a very consistent smoke. It's a great cigar. It's becoming one of our top sellers right now. I think as far as our top seller, number 1 is going to be the Asylum Insidious, the sweet tip.
I know I definitely broadcasted that as one of my top cigars as soon as I smoked it.
Yeah,
so.
It's a great cigar, and we sell probably 2 boxes a day almost, it seems like now.
That's great business.
Yeah.
So pretty unexpectedly early in the cigar industry. You said 2018 is when you started smoking and dabbling in the industry?
2016 was when I
or
got into smoking, yes.
Okay.
As far as the actual shop, we started that December of 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So 4 years into the game, you're like, it's time to really get into this, huh?
Yeah, now my ultimate goal is to get a lounge. We want to have a lounge that everybody can come and enjoy in Springfield, the same experience that I experienced in Vegas. That's what I want to bring to Springfield, and for that we need the support. You guys have been very supportive. There's another group I'd like to give a shout out to, if I can, is Ohio Cigar Mafia. They've been super supportive.
Absolutely. You see our patches right here.
Absolutely.
I got a
Flag's
flag in
gonna be
order.
hung up
It'll
in
be right
here.
there in the corner here soon.
Yes, and shout out to John Harper and Brian Boyer and Greg and Steve and all those guys over there. They do a great job with what they're doing, as well as the cigar part. They've really helped introduce a lot of customers to us, and it really makes me more encouraged to drive to I know other people besides me want the same thing I want.
Yeah, actually, we became part of the OCM thanks to you guys. I think we saw one of your patches up there, and Josh told us about what they do, and we said, well, we got to get involved with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great foundation. If you guys aren't familiar, they also help support Southeastern Guide Dogs, which is helping with veterans, and it's something that you can help contribute to. That regardless if you want to join the group or not, Southeastern Guide Dogs is a very big organization that you can check out. But a shout out to the Ohio Cigar Mafia for representing the things that they do is very humbling.
Yeah, we pretty much preach that every week. There's so many cigar clubs out there, but to find one that actually has a direct cause and, an impact on the community like that, it's really unmatched, that I've seen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you mentioned a lounge. I know that's the dream. What steps further do you need to make before you can solidify that? Like, is the business side where you want it to be able to support that, or is there you still need more business? And I know obviously you need a building.
Absolutely. So that's a really good question. So far, as I said, like when we started, it was just 2 humidors. We now have 20 humidors. The sales has been increasing, and then at the first of the year in January is always a slowdown for retail, so we can't really evaluate that month. And now it's picked back up again as it's approaching spring. So we're seeing again another uptick in cigars, and we imagine as the weather picks up, it'll again pick up more. The thing that we're looking at as well is we're trying to build out the e-commerce website, and we've been struggling hard with that. It's a lot of work to do. And so we're trying to serve at least Ohio to be able to get e-commerce so people can buy cigars online from our store. And that alone should give us the cigar sales we need to support a lounge.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. There's really nothing like that again in Springfield. So to have a lounge here in town so close to us would be phenomenal, especially if you bring that touch that inspired you from Davidoff and Monte Cristo in Vegas. Right. I can't wait for that.
So we've had 3 buildings we've looked at, and we've backed out on 3 different buildings, one due to size, one due to roof issues. The other one was just we weren't sure of the location. For me, I'm looking for a large lounge, basically where there's enough room to not be crowding shoulder to shoulder. There's enough room for ventilation. Your eyes aren't going to water or anything like that. You'll have ease of sitting your drink down, etc. So that's kind of the dream for me right now, but I got to do the e-commerce part first, I think, in order to solidify, to make sure the lounge lasts.
It's actually one of our dreams as well, is to open up our own lounge someday. Nice. I mean, how probably 20, 30, 40 years down the road from now, but one day I'd definitely love to pursue that.
It's the toughest part is finding a great location and the building. You don't want to necessarily lease out a building, you want to own it. And the main reason is so that way you're a private owner, you can do what you want on your property. You're not going to, at the end of the lease, be sued for damages from smoke or being evicted because a neighbor complains if you have smoke and things like that. So it's really hard. You have to find a standalone building, and you want to own it. You don't necessarily want to rent it or lease it.
Yeah, I guess that was something I never considered. And also the e-commerce is huge.
Absolutely.
I can see that having a significant impact on the business side because of just, it's hard to, like buying cigars right now, you're buying online at least, you're buying from Nationwide, cigar specifically online things, and, sometimes they're not packaged the best, or like how much do they really care? Or, selection-wise, obviously, we can go on and on about your guys' selection there. So, yeah, e-commerce, as far as getting boxes or, hand-picking through your selection without having to go to store, that could be huge.
Absolutely. I think it'll be a huge just for the encyclopedia reference of what cigars we have in stock. And because, like I said, there's about 100 cigars we have that's not out on the shelf yet, and that's just due to space constraints. But, we have a humidor and storage in the back for that, and so we're able to manage that inventory, but we'd like to display it more.
I feel like each time I come in, the first thing I ask is, hey, what's new?
Absolutely.
And here's 5 new sticks that one of your employees has for me in line. So always great rotation through the inventory and always new stuff coming in. And never a letdown either. Like you said, having the ability to buy what you guys want and what you know is good. There's never anything on your shelves that you don't personally already enjoy and support.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as like our employees and such, like everybody has a different profile of what they smoke. We have the light and creamy smooth guys. We have the pepper bomb guys. We have the I just want something in the middle with a little chocolate. So depending on what your profile is, we pretty much got something for everybody. Just our selection, I think, is, I've traveled to a few lounges, and I think there's a lot of great lounges that I wish I had just for the lounge aspect, but I know our selection's way better. The only one I found that wasn't probably better was like Jungle Gyms in Cincinnati. They have an amazing selection in their humidor.
I guess I never really thought to look there for cigars.
They're very, very inexpensive, but it's a hassle to get through the store. But once you get through the store, it's definitely worth going.
Easy to get sidetracked by all kinds of different foods and whatnot. Yeah.
Yes, and liquor.
And a lot of good liquor too
Yes.
there. Yeah.
You know, you're going in for an ostrich egg and you come out with who knows what.
15 new cigars.
But yeah, props to your staff, because I know they've never steered me in the wrong direction. And, for our listeners out there that are newer to cigar smoking, if you have any questions and you're in Tip Top, they will be answered.
Absolutely. We
And
do our best.
Yeah, every staff member is just as knowledgeable as the next. And it kind of threw me off because they are younger guys, too.
Absolutely.
And I didn't expect them to be as knowledgeable as they are.
So usually when we hire someone new, we have them go through, we have training manuals for each brand. And it's daunting, I guess. It's not something you want to do, but generally if someone's into cigars, they'll just, let me look at it, boom, boom, boom. And they're going through it and trying to learn as much as they can. That's generally the employees we try to have in, is someone that's passionate about what they're doing, cares what they're doing, making sure we get great customer service and still give good pricing.
That's the main thing you mentioned, the passion. Most people who work in most shops, but especially yours, they love smoking, so it's so much easier to have that when a new customer comes in. They can say, like a sommelier almost, totally make recommendations based on, what that person wants. So for listeners out there that maybe are new smokers or haven't started smoking, what are some good brands or specific sticks you'd recommend to begin with?
That's a tough one. That's going to depend a lot. I'll give you maybe a top 5.
Yeah, give us some from each flavor palette, like a guy that wants creamy, a guy that wants spicy, and a guy that wants mild with a little chocolate.
So starting out mild right away, I would start with an Asylum Insidious Connecticut. Just a Robusto size. Main reason why it's not going to be too strong, it's not going to get you nick sick or be an overwhelming flavor. If you like something a little bit creamier, but a little bit more pep to it, I would try a Sober Mesa Brulee from Dunbarton, Tobacco and Trust. It's an excellent cigar. It's one of my favorites as far as Connecticut goes.
I'm actually not familiar with that one myself.
It's
I'll have to
really
pick
good.
one up next time I'm in.
Yes, it's an excellent smoke. Some of the mid-body cigars for myself, like I like the Charter Oaks. I kind of prefer more like the Connecticut in that medium range, but I do also like their Maduros. I think they have a great chocolate taste to it. I get that note from it, but it's not like a full strength, hit you in the face, punch you in the mouth type cigar. Another medium strength one for me would be, I like the Olmec. I think it's a medium to 3/4. I don't necessarily consider it full. As far as the fulls, I would look into LFD cabinet number 5s and number 6s.
I just had both of those the other week. Phenomenal sticks. LFD never let you down, of course.
Absolutely. It's a great smoke. It's not expensive. And in fact, if you've tried both of those, they're shaped different, and it's the same exact tobacco use, but they taste totally different.
Yeah, Colin had mentioned that, and most people think it being the exact same blend, they should taste the exact same. But that's not the case. Even as simply as having a different shape gives you a whole different flavor profile.
Right.
And the one I had, I think it was the number 6, was like a total black cherry bomb. Very sweet, very good, and completely different from the number 5.
Now, if you're into a super long smoke and you want something really big, JFR from Aganorsa. They have 7x70s, 8x80s, as well as Asylum. They smoke really good. There's some big top sellers for 2-hour smoke.
Yeah, that'll put me on my ass.
Yeah.
A big old 8x80.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a commitment right there.
And we got some guys that do it daily.
I'll get there eventually.
I don't know if I can. I'm more of a Robusto Toro torpedo guy myself.
What about some of your personal favorite sticks or brands? I know I've talked about Foundation a lot. I love them.
I love Foundation. They actually are my newest favorite brand. I consider them one of the top 3 brands in right now that we even carry. Another one of my favorite brands is J.C. Newman.
Oh, I can never go wrong there.
Correct.
Very
Yeah.
diverse.
The Perla del
Products as
Mars
well.
is actually probably the most undersold or most underrated cigar. That's why I brought you guys a sample pack for you to try. If you haven't yet, you got to try them. 3 different shades. They're an excellent cigar, and it's not going to break the bank.
Yeah, I think Newman's probably like the best bang for your buck brand out there. Most
Yes.
of them are all under like $10, $12. And
Absolutely.
they're all like quality-wise $25 sticks. I've never had a bad experience with Newman.
My favorite is
course
the Black Diamond from them, of course. That's my personal favorite.
I've only had one, but I'm very excited to smoke this one you brought me as well. The Caesar is one of my favorites. Love the Julius Caesar from them.
Yes, and the El Baton's is a
And the
great
Baton
one
is
too.
great. Yeah.
So it's as far as J.C. Newman, they just put out great quality all around. Every single stick they make, whether it's a $6 cigar or you go up to a $20 cigar, they're just a great quality cigar. And they always have a great burn construction to them. They don't usually canoe. Some brands can do that. I tend to get that more from like a Perdomo or a Drew Estate.
Yeah,
But-
nothing more frustrating. Even if the flavors are great, if it's not well made and you got to keep touching it up or relighting or you get a bad burn, just drives you crazy.
Yeah, it takes away from the experience because you want to relax. You don't want to be having to worry about touching up your cigar over and over again. And if you can't relax, then it's not a good cigar.
Yeah, what's the point?
Right.
You know? Let's see, Cam, what else we got here?
I don't know, but this is just a great conversation. Aside from the talking
Yeah, I feel like
points
we have a couple small notes. We generally don't try to like plan a show. You just have guys come in, hang out, smoke a cigar, and have a good conversation.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm super honored to be here, honestly. So
Honored to have you.
thank you guys for inviting me. I thank you very much.
We've
of
got
course.
I know we've got interviews lined up with Brian and John from the Mafia.
Nice.
I
nice.
think later on this month at some point. And then I know we'll all be at the events upcoming this year they have going on.
I know. I'm
think,
planning to be at 2 at least.
I think we're both sponsoring the
Yes.
May 20th event. Yeah,
Yep.
that'll be fantastic.
Yep, absolutely. I'm definitely sponsoring for that.
So, gearing back towards the OCM, when did you come about, or how did you get introduced to those guys?
So it's kind of an odd story, actually. I believe it was Colin who told me that John had came in, John Harper, and at that time he was working for EMS, and so I actually got a chance to meet him and Steve in the same day, I believe it was, and basically John goes, "Hey, you got to come check out this group," and it wasn't at the time Ohio Cigar Mafia.
It was still Ash Hole back then.
Yeah. Excuse me. And so, yeah, it was that then, and it didn't last very long. I got out of that when we moved over to the Ohio Cigar Mafia. And so that's, I think, a much better page. There's a little bit more personable information that goes on in the group because I think the group is so close-knit.
Oh, absolutely.
And everybody's showing up at different events together. I went to the one in October out at Robbie's at Stogie Smoke
Stogie's,
Shop in
yep.
Cuber Heights. Yeah, it was a great event. Espinoza was there, Eric Espinoza and Tyler from Espinoza, the sales rep. Fabulous time, great food, lots of great prizes for the raffles and things like that. Fully support them on that. So I'm planning to be out to 2 events at least this year.
And you're also one of, I think, 8 or 9 club preferred lounges and
We are,
shops
yes,
from the
yes.
OCM.
I'm very thankful that they preferred us, yes. I don't know how we earned that honor, but I'm super, super thankful.
Well, and you support the cause, they support the shop.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the selection. I mean, best selection around as far as I know. I'm newer into the game too, but I think a lot of people can attest who've actually been there and browsed can attest to that selection you guys have.
Thank you very much. I know we try to bring in like I said, when we started out, we were bringing in a lot of what people were asking for. And as we moved on, I know after that first year, we kind of had an idea, like, this is what customers are looking for. However, these are the cigars that they don't know about. So let's try to introduce them in a small way. And so we brought in a couple boxes just to see how they do, and they tried them. So boom, we brought in the whole brand.
So, from the business standpoint, have you seen cigars surpass vapes and e-liquids, or is it still pretty close?
It's very close. It's 50-50 at the moment. It's something I wish wasn't 50-50. I wish cigars were 90% of our sales, but we'll eventually get there.
Yeah, I think it's trending upwards, though, because pretty much everybody vapes. But I've only been smoking for maybe 5 years, but in that time, I've already seen the cigar community continue to grow and the business continue to, get bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
so I think we're heading in the right direction for sure.
It's booming, even as a whole throughout the whole country. Like when I've been to TPE, when it first opened back up from COVID, to the last two, it's just growing. And then PCA again, like PCA was huge last year, and this year they're planning to even be twice as big. So the industry is booming. We're seeing new cigar customers on a daily basis. As far as some of the cigars you asked to recommend, another one maybe that is an entry cigar would be like a Deadwood Sweet Jane. And that's just because it's a sweet tobacco. It is infused with a little bit of sweet flavor in the tobacco. But that's another good entry cigar to see if you might like it. It doesn't necessarily mean every cigar is going to taste like that, but it's just kind of an introductory to see if you might like it.
Yeah, I know a lot of the owners we've talked to say like Drew Estate Acid line, or a lot of those infused cigars are both big sellers and, like you said, a great entry point. People smoke one of those and think, okay, I'm a cigar person now, and we'll start branching out off that.
Absolutely. And so the other big concern, there was a flavor ban passed for Columbus, if you didn't know. It'll go into effect January 1st, 2024. And so basically, like, the acids will be gone, the Deadwoods will be gone, Kentucky Fire Cures, the Isla del Sols. And so that's not a good sign for Drew Estate, but I think for the time being, as long as they don't regulate it out of Springfield, that could drive Columbus customers to us.
That's just regulated for Columbus, not statewide?
Currently, yes.
God, hopefully that stays that way.
Yeah, and so the Senate actually had proposed a bill in Ohio and passed it, and it was to basically make sure that cities and municipalities could not do a flavor ban. It had to be a statewide deal. And the House also approved it, and DeWine vetoed it. So now any city in the state of Ohio can make a flavor ban at
Well, let's
any given
hope
time.
Springfield does not follow through with that themselves.
Correct. I hope not.
Yeah, I would think with the smaller cities, and they would probably gauge that like based on their income from those specific niche things like flavored tobacco and stuff. How much does that bring? What's the impact to the city? All that kind of stuff that I'm sure city legislation gets into that I absolutely know not a single thing about.
And the problem there, too, is the people that make those regulations don't know the cigar industry, for the most part.
Also true.
And for the most part, they're also trying to regulate different products, and they don't realize they're regulating other products as well. I know their main goal was going strictly after vapor products. We fully expect vapor products to be gone by the end of this year. There may be disposables left, but as far as the open liquid containers and stuff, we expect that to be gone.
That's a significant portion of the industry, too.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's a sad moment for me because vapor was what got me into the industry as a whole to start with. To give you a little bit of background on that real quick. So I was a cigarette smoker for about 20 years and about a pack and a half a day smoker. I had gotten out of the car at Walmart, had some health issues where I felt chest pains, went to my doctor. She did an x-ray. I thought it was heart issues, found out it was a lung issue, and it was early COPD. So with that, she sent me to a pulmonologist. And I went to the pulmonologist, and she goes, I got medicine for you. We caught it in time. We can help you. It's called Spiriva. and it's a very expensive medication. It's a one-time-a-day medication that you inhale, but if you don't stop smoking, then it's not going to help. So I said, okay, well, how can I stop smoking? And because this is the hardest thing I've ever tried to do in my life. And she goes, well, I would first recommend the patch, then I recommend the gum. I will not prescribe Chantix. I do not believe in it. And the other thing's an e-cig. And at that time, I had no idea what one was.
That was before they were really popular.
Nobody knew. And so I said, okay, what is that? And so I went home and researched it. The only place I could find it was at the Beaver Creek Mall. There was a kiosk, and they had Century 21s from Chicago. They were a little slim pen, and the Groupon was around $50 to go buy one. And I went and got one, tried it out, and I was like, okay, this could potentially work, but it needs to be better. And so I researched more on the internet, found out, hey, there's a lot better vapor devices, ordered one in the mail, got it, was able to quit smoking. It took me about 3 weeks to fully transition from cigarettes to vape only. Once I did that, with the medication, within 6 months, my CT scan and x-rays all came back clear that it was just a calcified deposit, no more COPD, I was good. And the pulmonologist started recommending to everyone, all of her patients, to vape because she saw an uptick of 50% increase of patients quitting smoking from vaping. So that was something for me that really just drove me to get into the vape industry. And so when it came to the cigars, there was a bit of hesitance for me when 2016 to go, because I'm like, no, I can't smoke. And they're like, no, you don't put it in your lungs. You just draw it into your mouth, taste it, exhale it. I said, well, then that's not going in my lungs. That's not going to affect my early COPD that I had issues. And so far it has not, fortunately.
Yeah, I think we've both probably each accidentally inhaled some cigar smoke. Never a mistake you make twice.
No, never. Never.
Yeah, definitely a little too strong to enjoy that.
Yes.
Well, good to hear that you're in great health now. And so, yeah, I can understand why, as much as, like you said, that figure you're shooting for was 90%, not 100%. So I could tell that's kind of still like your baby, you know?
I think vape will still always be around. I think it's going to be in a disposable form. It's going to be controlled by Big Tobacco. It's going to be R.J. Reynolds. It's going to be Philip Morris. It's going to be the big dogs. It's not going to be the mom and pop shops no more. Unfortunately, the government has taken that away from us. I used to manufacture e-liquid, like I said earlier in the show. I had to stop doing that in 2018. I hired a guy to start manufacturing in 2017. And when the Ohio taxes came out, he stopped manufacturing for everybody, and he was manufacturing for 12 different companies. So when he got out, my liquid was no longer manufactured. And I would like to have kept it on the market. However, to keep each individual product on the market, it cost $100,000 to submit a PMTA to the FDA per product. So that's if there's one flavor of juice, say strawberry, and you have it in a 0 milligram, a 3 milligram, and a 6 milligram, then that's $300,000 to submit for that one item to remain on the market.
That's insane.
Yeah, I wonder who that targets.
Exactly. So as far as that goes, yeah, I would like to keep some vapes on the market because I think it's a really good thing for adults who want to quit smoking cigarettes, because cigarettes and cigars are not the same.
Not even close.
Not even close. Cigar is premium tobacco. It takes half a decade to make one. I mean, there's a lot of hands that touch cigars. But the tobacco and cigarettes, you might as well just say it's stuff swept up off the floor.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And so to have adults to have the ability to have their own right to be able to decide on their own, hey, I'm going to quit smoking. Now they're going to be regulated by the flavor ban, but at least they're going to be able to get a tobacco flavor. And if that helps somebody, which I know it will, I'm for it.
Yeah, no, like a lot of my friends who've tried to quit, like they try the patch, try the gum, doesn't always work. They usually go back to cigarettes. So, and at least that I've seen, the e-cig and vape is a much easier way to go about making that transition.
Yeah, I think,
so hopefully
that
so. Remains a vital option for most people.
And also, personally myself, I still vape. Even though I smoke cigars, I still vape during the day. Generally, cigars for me is something that's after dinner. It's not like I smoke cigars all day long. I just don't have that ability to do that in my shop. I wish I did.
It's like a dessert option.
Correct. Yeah. So it's at night. It's after dinner. It's my dessert option of what I want my flavor palette to be, and just relax for the evening and kind of wind down.
And I think there are some great mental health benefits to cigars because you do sit down and relax and take things nice and easy. I'm never happier than when I'm lighting one up, you know? So I think doctors should recommend a cigar a day. Every time you see some guy in the news who's like 105 years old, they say, "Sir, what's the secret to life? How are you so young and healthy?" He's like, "Oh, I smoke 2 cigars a day and drink a bottle of Jack."
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Now, no doctor might actually recommend that, but I'm all for it.
Sometimes I think the only anxiety I get is from picking out a cigar.
That's always the hardest part.
Yeah.
Especially when I go to your shop. It's like, man, it's like I'm like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, and then you buy 7, and then you got to still pick again when you get home.
That's
And you're
again,
like,
yeah.
"Oh."
It's like but even just today, after all these things that Greg bought, I'm like, man, what do I smoke first? I have no idea.
Well, you got plenty of options, so you got about a week covered, I'm sure.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good problem.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned some of the Ohio Cigar Mafia events. Do you guys have any like tip-top events or anything else that you guys are going to be at throughout the year?
So we were originally looking at doing something in April. We ended up having to postpone that just because of spring breaks got delayed because of the schools had construction and such this year. So I know as far as talking to OCM, we're still planning to do something. We're just still in the works of finalizing how everything's going to work out. And for me personally, I would love to find a lounge.
Yeah,
Just to make that happen
that
first.
would definitely be a big factor. But knowing the guys at the OCM, they definitely won't be afraid to bring some lounge chairs and sit in your parking lot.
Not at all. They've
doubt.
done told me that.
I'll be there in the front row.
And they're more than welcome to come do that.
And I believe some of you guys traveled, was it to the Dominican or Nicaragua a couple weeks ago?
No, not yet. We got invited to go to Nicaragua.
Okay, but it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. I've been invited twice now to go to Nicaragua and once to the Dominican.
Yes, on my bucket list. I'd love to go to see one of those plants and see every step of the process from how it's grown to every step after that to a finished cigar.
Absolutely. The first person who invited us was actually from Aganorsa. And Brian, not to name drop, but hey, Brian. So
He's a regular listener to
still
the show.
looking for that plane ticket there. But yeah, so he invited us, and that's one thing for like the last year I've been looking to do. I'd like to go to even Plasencia or Aganorsa, and I would love to get our own labeled brand started.
That'd be fantastic.
That's one of my dreams to do, and to be able to partner with a major company like Aganorsa or Plasencia to be able to do that, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I know
house blend.
Aganorsa supplies like 60% of the entire industry tobacco.
Yes, 60%, and a lot of their tobaccos are used in, they don't necessarily specify how, but like Drew Estates I know uses a lot of Aganorsa. Asylum, CLE, they use a lot of Aganorsa. There's quite a bit of brands. I would say it's near more 60-65% now.
A nice tip-top banded house blend. I could see that.
Well, we want to make sure it has a band on it and represents something. I have an idea already. I just don't want to put it out there until we can get it finalized.
Of course,
Naturally.
save the surprise.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if that was to happen when we get to go down there, it's the goal for me is how much is this going to cost, and hopefully it's affordable. And I've had some good encouragement from another person that's a YouTuber, which is Tim Swanson from Cigars Daily. He's got his own brand, which we carry as well, which is American Viking, and it's actually a really good brand.
Yeah, I'm in the Cigars Daily Facebook group on my personal account. Very knowledgeable guys out there for sure.
Absolutely. He's one of the most knowledgeable guys. I've met him 3 times now in the last 2 years at shows. But I know he's always busy. He's already talking business. He's got what he's doing every single show. He's on our itinerary. He's like, boom, 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 knock it out. But I know he has a lot of people coming up and trying to shake his hands. Hey, thank you. But I know we got to say thank you to him at PCA because there's a lot of knowledge he provides in those videos that is decades of knowledge. And you can learn quite a bit. It's one of the best YouTubers, in my opinion.
So yeah, there you go. If you're a new cigar smoker, and I know we're kind of newer into the industry as well with our advice. If you need some real advice from a true expert, Cigars Daily.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been smoking, like I said, about 5 years now. Every time I think I know what I'm talking about, I'll meet someone like him who's just has forgotten more about cigars than I'll ever know. There's so many just like true aficionados and connoisseurs out there.
Yeah, he gives great reviews on independent cigars itself. Like, so, if you want a very specific profile on anything that he carries, he generally breaks it down. This is what I taste in the first third, the second third, the third third. And he has those videos. It's my favorite videos is his Sunday Night Lives. And he's just basically freestyling it and taking questions from the audience. And that's something that we're also trying to do as well. We're wanting to have a show like that. Basically to promote the business, to help encourage the ability to get in a lounge, because more cigar sales, the quicker we can get a lounge. And right now for us, the toughest part has been finding that building, just because the pricing of real estate's been really high.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the worst times to look for a building like that.
Yeah.
But hopefully the market starts adjusting itself here.
I think it's going to. I think it has no choice but to. I think we're definitely in a recession and have been, regardless of what the media says or how they want to say define or what a recession might be. Personally, having been in this business for over a decade now, I personally feel that we're in a recession, but it's different. When I say it's different, I mean it seems like our younger generation, mostly like the 21, 22-year-olds, they're more willing to spend their money versus try to save it. And where my generation, the mid-40s, near the 50 area, we're trying to save our money so we can hopefully retire in 62, 65 or something like that, So I got a pretty good feeling I'll never get to retire. I just know I'm going to be working till the day I die. I just feel that.
Well, on the plus side, if you have a lounge, then you really won't be working anymore either. So.
That's kind of the whole point of why I want a lounge, yes.
They say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, the lounge, if you have an upstairs area or a side room to make a little studio, get that YouTube going, have it set up all the time, that make that part even much easier.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Everything you want segues into one thing, and it's the lounge.
Yeah, and it's building steps. It's kind of, we already have the store, we have the retail establishment. Everybody knows I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people know we're there. We get people still on a weekly basis, almost daily. When did you guys open? When did you get here? When all these cigars come? So it's a really good feeling when we get those customers in there. When we get the e-commerce, I think that's going to really expand the knowledge that everybody's going to know, hey, this is the place to go if you're here in Central Ohio. So if you're in the Springfield, Clark County area, it's, saves you an hour driving, especially with the gas costs now, with the way the economy is. And I think a lounge is needed in Springfield. It's highly needed. There's people who have no place to go smoke. They're smoking in their garage. They're smoking in a tent. They're doing whatever they can to be able to smoke their cigar, but not do it in their house and not do it in their car.
Yeah, and it would, I think it kind of, for the Springfield area specifically, how they're trying to redo downtown and make it a much more friendly, livable space for everyone. I think that would be a perfect, opportunity for that to expand even more. So I'm sure they won't fight back for that at all.
No, I don't believe so. I know a few business owners in Springfield, and they're definitely supporting us. They've come out and shop with us on a weekly basis. One of the guys, I'm not going to give his name, but he's an advisor to a lot of businesses in Springfield, and he's been trying to help promote us as well. And he's looking forward to us getting a lounge. So I know a lot of customers are.
There you go. You heard it here first. Black tie only lounge. No, I'm just kidding.
Go retro. Go like speakeasy. Pinstripe suits, hats, the whole 9 yards.
We won't be Vegas upscale. That's not possible. It's
the Vegas experience without the Vegas cost here in Springfield, Ohio. Coming soon.
That's the dream. That would be if I won the lotto, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think we take a quick break here. I'm about due for my second cigar. We'll recap what we smoked, pick something new out, and come back with Greg on the special interview of SNS. Back after this. All right, welcome back here. We wrapped up our first round of smokes. The Charter Oaks by Foundation was just phenomenal. Brand new to me, and I'll definitely be purchasing more of those in the future. Cam?
The firecracker, I don't remember exactly what you called it, but that was very good. Little spice. I understand why they're called firecrackers for sure. But nice short little smoke. Very good. Yeah, no complaints. I know you said that was your first one too.
Absolutely. So I've had the original firecracker before, which I got another one laid out here. I like the original firecracker better. I think it was a little bit more milder. I think the St. Francis has a little bit more of the candela taste to it with that green wrap on the barber pole. So it's probably a little bit more stout than normal.
And now we all three have the Olmec by Foundation, which I've had, I think, 3 or 4 of now. One of my favorite sticks. Cam, your very first one here so far?
It's pretty good. No complaints. And again, perfectly made, great appearance, nice and oily wrapper, great burn. The draw is fantastic.
That's Foundation, dude.
No complaints. Flavors are great. Absolutely no complaints.
Yeah, it's right up my alley. I love the natural dark flavors. Some leather in there, some wood, nice dark chocolate. This is like my ideal kind of smoke. Now,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Greg, about some advice you might have for some young entrepreneurs like me and Cam here.
I'll
Of course,
try
you've
my
been in the
best.
industry for a while, been in business itself for a long time. So any little tips and tricks you got for us as guys just pretty much still starting off?
Oh, let's see. Social media. Hit social media hard. Any business that you're in right now, hit the social media as hard as you possibly can. I can tell you basically for a store, we put about 40 hours into social media per month at least. And if you go to our page, it doesn't look like a lot, but it takes some time, just doing some of the photographs, the tagging, the posting. But social media right now is the way you're going to be able to reach out the most people, regardless of what business you're in. If you're not in every single platform that you can possibly be in, the top 3 definitely is going to be Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you get in those 3, that's the best way to grow as a business right now. That's my best advice for anyone. That helped me grow as a business. Instagram alone, if it wasn't for that, I would have probably been out of business within 90 days that I went into business.
Yeah, it's definitely probably our weakest point. We've talked about before. It's so simple to do, but like you said, you got to kind of put your nose to the grindstone and just get it done. You know, it's the least fun part of the show for sure, but the best way to reach your audience and reach a new audience.
Absolutely. The first part's just building your account and just maintaining the content, keeping at least a few posts each week, and just be engaging. And then it'll get to a point where people who are following your page will end up be more engaging, and then it just becomes easy.
Yeah, we've got our merch here finally out, business cards, trying to spread the word through the physical media, which is cool and all. But yeah, social definitely goes a lot further and is much easier overall. Can reach a much bigger base.
Yeah, it just is very draining. I mean, we try to post a day, but with our kind of content, that's not really, sustainable. So yeah, right now we're at a couple posts a week, like you said, but definitely doing our best. We never talk about it either. Like, you've listened to our show. We're never
Absolutely.
like, hey, go follow us on social media or anything. It's right into it. And, we're kind of trying to gear the other way and like,
Start
hey,
self-promoting.
help us out a little bit.
You should be saying what your Instagram is, what your Twitter is, what your handle is, so that way people can find you on there and follow you and see what you're tweeting, what you're posting, what's going on.
Yeah, slowly but surely we are gearing our way up. And I know you said you've got you're a big sports guy.
I love football.
So what's your favorite teams? How do you think of everything that's going on? Are you a Bengals fan? How much should they pay Joe Burrow? What's going on in that
A lot of questions there in that
That's
little
a lot of
bombardment.
questions. Okay. So yeah, favorite team. So we'll start back when I was a youngster. Was the '90s? Was the Bills, Buffalo Bills.
Picked the right time to become a fan of them, huh?
And well, at that time was 1 year before they went to the 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember screaming at the TV watching the Houston Oilers, the AFC Championship game, I think it was. They were down about 35 points at halftime, and they came back and won it to go to the Super Bowl.
Still the biggest comeback of all time, I think, in the postseason.
Yeah, I think it is. And I remember watching that live, and it was just something I just won't never forget. It was the lowest of lows and the highest of highs all in one game.
In like an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, emotional roller coaster.
It's super emotional. And Frank Reich came out and just had one of the greatest second halves that any quarterback in a playoff history has had. But so anyway, back in the 90s, I was a big Bills fan. And then my youngest brother, he actually became one of my favorite people to watch. And I never told him that. But he had a team that went to state championship in Ohio. It was at Wayne High School in Heber Heights, and that was in 99-2000 season. And he had players like Will Allen went to Ohio State. John Hollins was a wide receiver. He went to Ohio State. And there was 16 players that got Division I scholarships that year. Prior to that, for the last 20 years, Wayne had only given out or gotten 2 players D1 scholarships. So it was a huge, great team.
So that was like Wayne's turning point then, because they've been a powerhouse for probably since then.
It was,
Basically, yeah,
it was their
my whole
turning
life.
point.
Yeah.
It was. They brought in Coach Jay Mitten. That was my brother's junior year, and he played for him for 2 years. And then he went to West Virginia University, and so I got to watch him play there. Well, the thing is in that transition in time, I got to be a fan of, which I didn't like because I was a Michigan guy. I'm a Go Blue fan.
Uh-oh.
So
Might have cut his interview short here, Greg.
hey, I'm sorry, but
I see all the Buckeye stuff here
but-
behind me.
So that's what I was going to say. So Will Allen went to Ohio State, and he's famous for their national championship, taking out Willis McGahee's leg,
Yep.
the interceptions between Cincinnati and Michigan to basically seal them going to the national championship that year. He was vital, come from Wayne, and so it made me cheer him on. And I became a fan of Ohio State because of Will Allen, and for that season, at least. And so anyway, at least when they don't play Michigan, we'll put it that way.
We can work with that. That's good enough.
Then, so when my brother was at West Virginia, I got to meet other people as well. Pac-Man Jones, Chris Henry, Rasheed Marshall, Quincy Wilson, who played for the Bengals. There was quite a bit the players who went to the NFL, and so when you're hanging out with them with your brother, and it's just kind of in a living room setting, like kind of what we're sitting here talking right now, you look at it more as when they're playing against each other in the NFL as a business.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it's kind of like, I can't root against you or for you. I hope you guys both do well. I really do. And you guys stay healthy, do well, make your money. So I kind of learned at that point of my brother's college career in his junior and senior year that it's a business when you go into the league. And so for that point, I now no longer have a favorite team. However, for the last 2 years, I've been cheering on the Bengals, loving it. I think they've got a few more years in them, maybe 4 or 5. I think Burrow will win a Super Bowl.
I hope so.
I think he's going to be the highest paid player ever as quarterback.
Without a doubt. It's coming here very soon.
I would say it's going to be 55 to 60 million.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Joe Burrow, great for the cigar community as well.
absolutely. He had an LFD when he won the championship with LSU, as
Yep.
well as an Florida Dominicana against Kansas City when they won the AFC championship.
Which we smoked on one of our very first shows, I think.
Yeah, it was. Well, I know it was after I had an excellent UFC card,
Correct.
as I tend to do.
When you're hot, you're hot.
I still think, again, my claim to fame is calling that Eagles loss to the Commanders
Out of the blue.
for no reason.
For no reason. Now, what position did your brother play, Greg?
So my youngest brother, he was an offensive lineman. He played every single position but center.
Versatile and very
versatile.
important.
So to give you an idea, his first start as a freshman was against Dwight Freeney when he went in the first round.
Ooh.
Was his very first start in the middle of the game.
Welcome to
Like-
college ball, big boy.
Yeah, so the game's starting. Dwight Freeney comes out first play, and just he doesn't smash him. He holds his own, but he's just like, you could tell, like, wow, this guy's fast.
This is it. Yeah.
This is the real deal. And so he held his own. He never allowed any sacks or anything like that against him. And from that point, he went forward. From his freshman year, he played until midway of his senior year. It was after the Virginia Tech game, and he had a lot of injuries and such, but they decided to pull him out and put someone else in. And I don't know the full extent of everything. I know there was a lot of scouts there watching him. He was projected to go 3rd, 4th round pick. And he also, at that same year, got the, trying to get this right, National Football Foundation Athletic Scholarship, which is also the National Football College Hall of Fame. So he has a voting right in the College Hall of Fame for the NCAA. And that gave him an additional $25,000. At that time, I believe he already had 2 degrees from West Virginia University, and one of them was a master's. And he'd done that within 4 years.
It's a true student athlete.
Wow.
Right there.
And he was 2-time academic All-American, 2-time All-Big East. So I got to witness a different side of the business on football. So I still view it as a competition, but I mostly view it as entertainment.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think for part of it, there's a lot of times I remember getting upset about certain things happening in sports that I don't get upset about anymore.
Better for your health. I know that.
Yeah. Well,
God.
Except for when you're rooting for Michigan. So.
Yeah, so key points to take away from that, Austin, is stop being upset that the Cowboys are sticking with Zeke.
I'm
and
trying,
Dak.
man. I'm trying. I keep going back to the New Year's Eve game, of course, as the clock struck midnight and that field goal goes way wide left. I've been reliving that since. But yeah, going forward, I'll try to not be as upset.
It's an entertainment industry.
Exactly.
Come on.
But
it's
how
for
great would
fun.
it would have been this year if the national championship game was Michigan and Ohio State?
I was really hoping for that.
It was so close.
God, what it should
So
have been.
close.
I can't imagine the state my heart would be in watching that potential game.
I guarantee you the viewership would have been the highest
Without
in
a
the NCAA
doubt.
championship.
Probably by a huge margin, too.
Yeah, significant for sure. So
But-
did your brother ever see any pro time or anything
So
like that?
So he didn't. Let me go ahead and close that out. So he actually ended up meeting Mike Munoz, who is Anthony Munoz's son. Mike Munoz was playing at Tennessee. He also won. He was at that event for the College Athletic Academics Hall of Fame. So there's only 15 players in Division I selected each year for those awards. And one of those was my brother, and another one was Mike Munoz. He met him, and they both decided because of injuries that they were not going to enter into the NFL draft and declare themselves ineligible.
And already having 2 degrees will definitely help make that decision a little bit easier.
Correct. And he also had, he already had the assurance that he was going to be a head coach if he came back to his high school, or not a head coach, sorry, I apologize, a position coach at his high school, as well as a teacher. They was going to get him into assistant teaching at least, so substitute teaching. So he did that for about 2 years on the substitute teaching. And then he became a full-time teacher. And the great part of the story, what I love about my brother, is he was a learning disability student. He had a lot of handicaps learning in high school. So for someone to have that and become a college academic All-American is a very big deal to me, and be on the dean's list and things like that. Then on top of it, he became a teacher. Then he became head of administration for learning disability for Huber Heights City Schools. Then he became the assistant principal, then the principal of Wayne High School. Now he's vice principal at Stebbins, and he's also head of their CTC program at Stebbins.
No kidding. What an inspirational story, dude.
And so he's all about the academics. And so when it comes to, if you ask about how successful a football player is when it comes to college, me and him will give you the same answer, and that is, did he graduate?
It's a very fair point. There's nothing more that sets you up for the future than an actual degree or multiple degrees. And yeah, that's a very touching story.
But I would still always bring up at every Thanksgiving dinner, hey, I shut down Dwight Freeney in college, my very first game.
100%. Yeah.
I would too.
Good for him. And
So I think actually probably, just so you know, one of the biggest things I think he bragged about was Vilma and Will Fork from Miami Hurricanes. So he played against them and Ed Reed and Sean Taylor, that team.
One of the greatest teams of all
that
time.
played Ohio State for the national championship. Yeah. Ken Dorsey, all that. Yeah. So he played them in the regular season. Vilma and Wilfork both came up after the end of the game and said, you hit both of us the hardest we've ever been hit.
Get out of here. I'd mention that
Man.
story every Thanksgiving, too.
Right.
Yeah.
I would.
Definitely.
Because that was the squad. Miami had a great defense.
Oh, of course,
It was
yeah.
all-star first-round picks. I think they had 12 or something in that
Still
first
the
round.
record, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, very, very cool stories.
And I got to see them play live. That was one of my favorite games to just see. And then, so I got to see it 2 years in a row. The one was so great. It was one of those highs and lows moments
Yeah.
again. So in the last 2 minutes, Quincy Wilson, who did play for the Bengals about 3 or 4 years as basically a backup running back, his dad was Otis Wilson. He played for the '85 Chicago Bears and as a linebacker. So anyway, he breaks off a run where he runs over every single one of those top first-round picks, and he's hurdling them and for the touchdown. We're up 2 points. 2 minutes left. Miami gets the ball. 4th down. They're down at their 4th down. Kellen Winslow makes a 13-yard one-handed grab for first down so they can kick a field goal to win by a point.
We could
Man.
probably pull his highlights up here in a minute.
Yeah,
They got to be
there.
on YouTube for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
ESPN made that the play of the year, that run by Quincy Wilson.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's dope.
It was a really astonishing run to watch.
So you got to see all those games that they travel to. Of course, Morgantown's a great city.
It is.
Great
It's
college
fun.
town. I planned to go there a couple years ago with TB and Marcus, but we didn't end up pulling the trigger on that. What's the best college environment you've been to?
Wow. That's a tough one.
There's really no wrong answer.
You know what? West
know?
Virginia Roads is where my heart's at right now. It always has been. I haven't been back for a while. It's been about 18 years, I think, almost. It's just a really good tailgating environment, and especially when they're playing a great team. Pitt is a great rivalry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's the backyard brawl. It's 70 miles away from each other. The fans, they come out with the great big FU. They got it on the shirts and the hats and everything. So I definitely think my heart's in West Virginia. I'll always root on Michigan because that's my team. Always has been.
And I'm sure those West Virginia and Va-Tech games were wild, too.
That's where I was getting ready to get to. So 2 games in particular that really blew my mind. One was when my brother was being recruited. Michael Vick was playing at Virginia Tech, and it seemed like literally in person he made 3 steps for a first down that was 13 yards.
Insane.
It was so fast, just insanely fast, good. And that was the year they went to play Florida State for the national championship. But as far as college environment, as far as football goes, I'd been to the Big House at Michigan. So I know what's going on at the shoe. I've heard those environments, but I went to Blacksburg, Virginia, to Virginia Tech, and that stadium is extremely loud. When they do the gobble, gobble, gobble sound, oh my goodness, the stadium starts shaking. You can feel it moving inches, and it's just the way that it bowls down in.
Yeah.
It vibrates, and it just pierces your eardrums. I don't know how any of the players can hear, and they're basically doing sign language. My brother was like, we couldn't hear a thing.
They still had Enter Sandman to start off back then?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
God,
yeah.
I can't imagine being a part of that.
It was fun. It was great times. I got to see a lot of games. I was fortunate. I was working at Wright Pat at the time. I was a civil engineer, and so I had the weekends free. So being a government worker had its perks at that moment.
Pros and cons, yeah.
So I got to go to every weekend's games at home and quite a few of the away games because generally family doesn't necessarily try to travel to far away games.
Yeah.
And I got to bring quite a few friends along during that run as well, and they were just ecstatic about it. And some of them were just kind of like, oh, I'm not even sure I didn't even know West Virginia had a team. So it's like, well, look it up because back in '88 they actually played in a national championship against Notre
pretty
Dame.
solid program.
Yeah. So they actually had a really good program, and it's definitely stuck with me. One of the moments for me in sports that was personalized for me was we got out of the car on that recruiting trip where he got to go to the Navy game. And me being a Buffalo Bills fan, Darryl Talley's right there getting out of the car next to us. And then also right beside him is Jeff Hostetler, who played for the Giants against Darryl Talley in the Super Bowl.
Correct.
And that's when I learned it was a business because they gave each other a big bro hug. And they both were just super nice guys. Hostetler's super jacked. I had no idea QBs were that jacked until that moment. They are like you can look at some of the most beastly guys in college football, and that's like a quarterback in the pros.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely significantly larger than they look on TV. That's for sure.
Yes. The offensive linemen, being around them, my youngest brother, my older brother, they were all as well defensive and offensive linemen. I'm the small guy in the family.
That was fun to probably be raised in. Brotherly tussles weren't super fun for you, I'd imagine.
It was more struggle at dinner getting the food.
That's
Oh,
the main
yeah,
thing, being a
that too.
lineman.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was Thanksgiving dinner every night. My mom, I feel bad for her how much food she had to cook, but it was
But there
tough.
was never leftovers.
Never.
Yeah, by the time you're done with your first plate, you're going to paw at what's left of the mashed potatoes and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Just scrape the bowl.
It's a good thing they didn't pick on you too bad. Like, I mean,
The
me
older
and my-
brothers did a bit.
Yeah, me and my brother growing up, we had our fair share of scuffling, but I was the bigger one, thankfully. I couldn't imagine having a defensive lineman and offensive lineman brothers, and you're right in between them.
Now, did you ever play sports yourself growing up?
I did. So myself personally, I was super into soccer.
Yeah.
Also basketball. My two favorite sports were soccer and basketball. Soccer by far. How that happened, I have no clue other than I just got into it with my friends. At the time, I was living in Shawnee Lake in Jamestown in elementary school, and three of my best friends, they're like, hey, come out here and play soccer. I know by the time I hit the 4th grade, we were already going to state finals for SAY soccer. And so we got a big trophy. We went undefeated one year, and then moved to Xenia and stayed with the soccer, and that's how I became, got meet my friends that I didn't know yet, and basically get involved with the community, So soccer was 12 years for me. Basketball, when I got into high school, became more of a passion that I wanted to play it. Played it freshman and sophomore, and then that was it.
Yeah, everybody hits that wall when you realize maybe this is about where I top out at.
Yeah.
Especially at Xenia, too. They're a pretty good basketball school.
At that time, they were super good. They faced Elder in the district finals. The Elder at that time had like 7-foot players. I'm pretty sure they still do now.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, they had a really good team. One of the guys was a McDonald's All-American. His name was Sean Thigpen, I want to say.
Have to look him up.
He was actually a really good player, and they did really good. So basketball was definitely a passion of mine to play. That was my favorite sport to play personally.
It helps with footwork for soccer, too, I'd imagine, depending on what position you play, at least. Definitely cardio.
Absolutely.
That was the worst part. I hated the cardio, man.
That's why you played baseball.
I played soccer too growing up.
Oh,
When I was back in the little less flabby days.
yeah, I'd imagine.
You still hit a court now and then? Throw some jumpers up?
No, I actually haven't been able to. I can't even remember the last time I think I played basketball. It was probably about 2005.
I think you forget this guy runs a business.
That's the issue.
I also practice. Get a hoop outside in the parking lot. You get a slow period to go outside and take some free throws.
We might have to do that.
You're a basketball guy, Cam.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Played most of my life up until sophomore year. The environment and where I was playing at wasn't really the best as far as talent necessarily wasn't what they were looking for. And me and the coach butt heads and, so far and so forth. I guess I wasn't dedicated enough, whatever. All that's in the past.
You
But
had the star mentality. You weren't willing to put the work in.
Yeah,
practice?
exactly.
We're talking about practice?
You got to
Yeah.
run lines all day? What?
Yeah, I still like to go play pickup in the summer. Me and my brother still get out there. Hopefully we can get out there more this summer, but, I booked up most of my off days with this, so makes it pretty hard. I'm trying to run a business too.
Absolutely. It takes some time and dedication. If you don't have the time to put towards it, it's not going to take off. And when it comes to business, the number one thing I think I learned is when you stop trying, you will fail. And as long as you don't stop trying, you won't fail.
Probably the best advice I've ever heard.
That's the mindset we kind of came in with. Like, even if it doesn't take off per se, like, we're always going to keep doing it because it's so much fun and it's something we do anyway. It's kind of why we started.
Right.
We're just sitting at work one day thinking, like, we already had these conversations. We love smoking good cigars. Why not put a mic in front of us and just see what happens? And here we are,
Absolutely.
28 episodes later?
give or take.
Yeah.
I know I've listened to quite a few of your episodes. I enjoy listening to them. That's like I listened to the last episode where you guys were talking about whether Zeke has 5 years left.
No.
No,
I don't think he has
they don't.
1 year left.
So you know the average time span of a running back in the NFL is 3 years, right?
Keeps getting shorter and shorter, too.
Yeah,
3 years, yeah.
definitely big drop off after 30,
Yeah.
30 years old.
Even like 26, 27 guys start. Unless you're Derrick Henry.
Well, that's
typically
kind of
start
the big
going
question
downhill.
mark with Derrick Henry right now. He's 29 going on 30, and they're looking to shop him.
Yeah.
So,
And skill players are a dime a dozen, right? It really
especially
is.
right now.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great skill players. The whole key is you got to have a great interior line.
Yeah, the
If you got
trenches
that,
are
you're going to win it.
the trenches are where it's at right now.
You look at all the past champions of even probably from all time.
I mean, look at the Eagles and the
It's all built around your offensive and defensive line.
yeah, even the Eagles and the Chiefs, both the top two respectively in each of those lines. So,
Get your QB, get a line, and you can plug in skill guys any and everywhere.
but it helps having those Tyreek Hills and Jamar Chases. It's fun to watch at least.
Until they ask for $40 million a year.
It's still fun for us to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyreek Hill's a difference maker, but you can see the Chiefs still made it without him, right?
Yeah, goes to show how important those trenches are.
Right.
Well, when you got Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid, sometimes you don't need Tyreek Hill.
And Kelsey helps a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I'd say so. Did you see him on SNL last week?
Yes,
He was phenomenal.
he's hilarious.
Of course, I mean, I know he's charismatic. He does the podcast. He's always been a great interview, but to go on stage and do that live, very impressive.
Very impressive.
Dude's definitely got a future in media after he retires.
100%.
Absolutely. My oldest brother, Dave, he actually got to talk to him when he was at Cincinnati, both his brothers, and covered them while they were playing there.
I was going to ask you about Dave. I know he's very involved in, that kind of area with college sports and recruiting and all that.
Absolutely. He's definitely involved in the high school sports and college sports. That's his mainstay. I can tell you, as far as anyone I've ever met in my life, if you want to know the stats from any decade, any player, any year, you could just ask and he'll tell you right off the top of his head. He knows them. But yeah, he's been into the football recruiting as far as helping kids get into college from the high school level, because a lot of players had no idea what that entails. They think, I have a great season my high school year, junior or senior, I'm going to go to wherever I want to go, and that's not the case. We found that out with my youngest brother. So he was, my youngest brother was listed at 6'8", 300 pounds, and no offers as an offensive lineman. This was his sophomore year in high school, and he was playing both ways, offensive and defensive line. So he went talked to the counselor and said, what can I do to try to get some colleges and stuff interested in? Well, the counselor says, well, you're never going to be able to go to college ever. They're not going to take you to college. And kind of sent him home crying in a way.
That's heartbreaking news.
Right. Like, you're not going to be able to go play what your dream is and play college ball. And so entered my oldest brother, Dave. And he went and found out, what do we need to do? And that was, we talked to Coach Mitten, who was familiar because he had actually coached in Boca Raton, Florida. Before he came to Wayne, he'd already sent about 78 or 87 players, I think it was, to D1 on scholarship. And he had a really successful program. Well, Coach Mitten says, hey, you got to go to these college camps in the summer. If you don't go, you're not going to get recognized. So my brother said, okay, which ones are the best ones to go to? And he goes, well, I'll take you to one at West Virginia. And he goes, the other one's close by is Ohio State. They have the Nike camp. And the other one over in Indiana is going to be Notre Dame. So he goes to the first camp's Notre Dame. And at the time, Bob Davies was the head coach.
Yeah.
My brother ran a 4.840 at 300
At
pounds.
6'8", 300?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
And right away, he got a handwritten letter from Bob Davies. I want to personally invite you to come be part of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And it was just a plethora of letters that came in the mail from every single college, every single day after that camp. And so that was one of the things my oldest brother did, was he basically would go around and let parents know, hey, this is what your kids needs to be doing if you want to go and get a D1 scholarship to go to college. It's not just playing ball in the fall. You got to go summer camps. And that's where it's at. So he got into the recruiting part of basically being a counselor and helping parents guide their kids to get to a scholarship doing the things they need to do. Some of the high school counselors aren't necessarily best equipped for the NCAA. And then my youngest brother, he actually has a book on Amazon. Not trying to promote it, but
Promote it.
Yeah, absolutely.
all right. So anyway, but it's for NCAA eligibility and for high school students who have learning disabilities and what you need to do to become eligible if you're not making the grade. And how you can get into, because some colleges will have learning disability programs, some colleges do not. That was one of his major deciding factors to go to West Virginia, was they had a learning disability program. Specifically, he wanted to be a teacher for learning disability. He wanted to learn about why he had a learning disability and how he could help other kids combat the problems that he fought.
God, what a guy. We definitely need a copy of the book for the studio.
It's a really good book, and he also has an offensive line academy that he does in the summers, again, camps, basically just helping players who want to learn the game and get to the next level. And sometimes college players will even come down to the camps and stuff just to tone up on their skills.
God, what a great program, too.
So it's
and
like,
still giving back like that, and still being involved with the game still.
absolutely. And I know there was times like when Dave got involved with the University of Cincinnati, they immediately was asking, once my younger brother graduated, hey, can you come down and teach us a few things? And it was Coach Staten at the time, if I remember right. And he had coached at Ohio State when they won the national championship. So yeah, it's been interesting to watch and see Dave grow what he does. And one of the things that I can say that it was just kind of like an ah moment was when he went and seen Joe Burrow. And he's like, there's this great quarterback that nobody's recruiting. He's only got one offer. It's his dad's college. His dad, he's only got one offer. He should have more. And so Joe Burrow had reached out to him on Twitter, how do I get recognized? And his reply back basically was, you need to go to these camps. And he went to the Ohio State camp and got offered for Ohio State.
So your brother's single-handedly responsible for Joe Burrow's entire career.
I do not say that. And
I will. I will say it here on air.
He will not say that, and I will not say that. Joe Burrow is responsible for what he does. Everybody, you got to put the training in, you got to put the time in, you got to put all that weightlifting, running, and it's a workout. I saw my youngest brother go through broken hands, broken ribs, play through broken ribs for a full season. Go through a lot just through the NCAA just to be able to get noticed.
I'll tell you what, if I'm Dave at Thanksgiving and the Bengals are playing, I'm like, you see that quarterback? You're welcome.
You got one brother talking about stopping Dwight Freeney, one brother saying, hey, Joe Burrow's all thanks to me, and Greg sitting here leaning back with a good cigar on top of the world.
So it's definitely, I'm rooting for the Bengals just because of Joe Burrow. I've been rooting for the last 2 years for that. Watching him in college develop as a player, and just the fact that, quarterbacks, if you go back to the Elways and the Marinos, the great quarterbacks, it took them 4 seconds to get the ball out. He does it in 2.5.
It's insane. Yeah, the kid's
When he gets an offensive line,
scary.
it's good game over.
Yeah, I know he corrected my one gripe I had about his game was his pocket awareness. And even with a bad offensive line this year, his pocket awareness was just on the next level.
Yeah.
That was my one complaint, and he fixed it.
Yeah, I'm not really a Bengals fan per se, but I'm definitely a Joe Burrow fan. Love to see him and the team succeed.
Deep down, everybody's rooting for Joe.
Joe Shiesty, man.
Hey, he's from Ohio. He's, Athens area guy. Why not?
Cigar smoker, just cool, laid back.
The fact he's a cigar smoker, 100% cheering for him.
I want to see what he breaks out when they win the Super Bowl next year.
I don't know what it'll be, but I'll buy it.
Without a doubt.
If I can, I want to try to get my brother to put a box in his dad's hands, but hey, we'll see.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
Something better than housemaids, that's for sure.
Yeah, you let us know what you decide to potentially offer, and we'll get ourselves a fair share of them as well.
Right on, we'll do that.
As soon as a tip-top branded cigar comes out and Joe Burrow's on national TV smoking one after winning the Super Bowl.
That would be amazing. I would love that.
Now he comes in shop, comes on the show.
He seems like a support local business kind of guy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. He's one of the humble players, It's like hard not to cheer for him. He's so humble. And then he shows up with these suits that are just
like with flowers on them,
Yeah.
all over them. And you're like, what is that? I don't know what it is. I've never seen it, but
But I like it.
I like it. You got it.
It looks like my grandpa's suit jacket from 1952 that he got at Goodwill, but I'm here for it.
You're throwing 50 touchdowns a year. You can get by with some questionable fashion choices.
But he rocks it. He makes it work. He looks good. He wears the glasses right. He's got the ear pods in.
Big
He's-
chain. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should start adopting that for our look, maybe.
Big chains.
Without a doubt. Wild suits. That'll help us take off a little bit more on social media.
There's one thing we don't have is like a gimmick.
Gimmicks aren't always a good thing.
I think we are gimmicky characters. though.
Exactly, yeah. We're the gimmick. We're selling
Fair
ourselves. Yeah. Now I'm about done here with my Olmec. Great as always. Again, at Foundation is probably at least my top 3 favorite brands. Cam, your first one down. What do you think?
No complaints at all. Off the top of my head, I'm probably going to give it a 42 out of 50.
Yeah, I was going to pull out the journal and do our little rating scale here, but I've had them before. It's definitely in that 45 range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally like the Foundation Tabernacle a little bit better.
Me as well. Yeah.
The Tabernacle's phenomenal.
Absolutely. But this one here, it got the number 1 of the year. I believe it was in Cigar Snob.
I think so.
magazine.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the Senator too, which also has like probably my favorite box of any cigar ever. It's a cool Egyptian one.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Definitely my favorite box.
And the Wise Man I've had one of. You've not, but you said this is a Joe Rogan cigar. You want to get your hands on?
Yeah, that's the...
We've got one right here now.
Yeah, they had a custom box and made with custom bands for the Joe Rogan Experience podcast that he has.
I watched a little bit of his. I watched some of the podcast, and I know he was talking about doing his own cigar, and
Yeah.
he's getting a lot of encouragement to really promote more now on the cigars.
That's because he has the reigning #1 podcast in the world.
He can
for
do
like
whatever
10
he
years.
wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had the #1 for like 10 years. I think it's definitely the longest ongoing podcast and probably upwards of 30 million listeners per episode. So definitely a good way to promote your cigar brands.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're coming for him. It's only a
One
matter
day.
of time.
One day. I'll take #1 in the sports world.
I'll take number 15 in the sports world.
Yeah,
Crack the top 100, we'll be happy.
very true. Well, we're in a very niche percentage now.
It's a fact. What's the exact stat? Like only 5% or 1% make it past 20 episodes?
Yeah, I think it's 5% of podcasts all together.
Yeah.
Of the 37 million podcasts there are. So we're in the top 5% of that.
Maybe we'll get a plaque made up. Put it right here in studio.
5%ers.
Top 5%, baby.
There you go.
All right, Greg, we'll wrap up here real quick. One more time, let people know where you can find you in your brick and mortar store and your social medias as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to tiptopsmoke.com, that's going to have our website. It's going to have all the cigars listed. Mostly, I should say, all the cigars. Not all of them yet. It's hard to keep up each day. We get more cigars in. So 3471 East National Road, Springfield, Ohio. If you're coming off of Route 70, Route 40, I believe it is.
Yep.
Just come off Route 40 into Springfield. We're right there by the Walmart. And the social media on Twitter and such will be on the website, but you can always find us. This handle's the same as Tip Top Smoke.
Yep, and we promote that. Of course, when the episode drops, we'll share that. Always give you guys shout-outs because you're such a great shop, and I've got most of my stock comes from you guys.
Hey, we appreciate not just the support at the store, but the support on the air as well. We thank you very much.
That's the big thing. Got to promote as much as you can, as well as the OCM, as always. Always pimp those guys out.
Absolutely.
And they do a great job of promoting their cause and their members as well.
And it was our pleasure to have you in today. Great to finally sit down and have a nice long conversation. I know briefly meeting at the store, that is what it is because, you have a business to run and you're actively doing it at the time. It's hard to get a nice face-to-face conversation. But I will say, out of every store I've ever been to, cigar shops are the ones where you can actually have more of a conversation than, like, say, Kroger or something like that. You know
Oh,
what
yeah,
I mean?
absolutely.
And just wait till the lounge comes in.
And, yeah, that'll make it even better.
Of course, you guys can keep ours on our social and Greg's as well for when that lounge does finally open up. I certainly can't wait. But thanks again for coming in, taking time out of your day after a long shift at the store.
My
and thanks
pleasure.
again for the incredible gifts you've donated here to our store or studio humidor, I should say.
You're very welcome. Enjoy them and see which ones you like the best. And I'm sure you'll find a few new ones there.
And if you don't hear feedback from us personally, you'll definitely hear it on the show because our next 35 show sticks are right there.
Yeah, give or take. Which one did we give Shane first?
I don't know.
He's
that,
finally getting up there. He's ready for some real
he's
good
got
stuff.
that like the Connecticut sampler platter or the mild sampler platter.
Yeah.
That you
Oh
said?
yeah, those are all for him.
Yeah, those are all for him for the Perdomos. You cannot go wrong
Yeah.
with those. Those Perdomos are fabulous.
He should love those. And he's got again his next 10 shows lined up, ready to go.
Absolutely. And with that, again, reach out on all social medias, and you know what we say:
Sports and Stogies.
to the moon.
Welcome to Sports and Stogies,